Welcome, everyone, to the Thursday edition of Fair Territory. I'm Ken Rosenthal here with Alanna Rizzo. Alanna, we have some news already today. Aaron Boone getting a 2-year extension that covers him for the next 3 seasons. He's under contract for this year. And I find it interesting that 2 of the managers Dave Roberts knocked out in the postseason last year, Padres Mike Shildt and the Yankees Aaron Boone, have gotten extensions, and he has not gotten one yet. But I fully expect him to. Alanna, we have some news on another front as well, more show-related.
Yeah, Ken, always great to be with you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live edition on this Thursday afternoon. Spring training is underway. The first spring training lineup has been posted. It is the Cubs. It is the Dodgers, full swing in full effect as far as that is concerned. So Monday, we're going to start moving our show. We're going to actually be on the air at 10:30 Eastern, just to be in the swing of spring training. It also makes sense that we just kind of lead into foul territory. So Ken and I will be on next week, 10:30 a.m. on Monday, as well as on Thursday. So just a bit of housekeeping stuff for that, so everybody can follow you, Ken, on Monday. But let's get back to the baseball news at hand. And things are still a little bit messy in Boston as far as the Rafael Devers, Alex Bregman third base situation. What's the latest?
Alanna, I've got to admit, I'm fascinated by this story, maybe more so than I should be. And I've written, the night that Bregman signed, I wrote that, hey, Devers should be the DH, Bregman should be the third baseman. Bregman is coming off his first Gold Glove. Devers does not rate well defensively. And I felt, you're trying to put the best team possible on the field. This is the way you have to go. And from the Red Sox perspective also, Devers' shoulders are still not right. He's still kind of getting into the swing of things. He also came into camp late. And my other concern for Devers is if he plays third base, then it starts off badly, how are the fans going to react knowing that he did not change positions? And there's one other element too. Jose Altuve is entertaining the outfield, playing the outfield at age 35, perfectly willing to move off second base where he was not and has not been a good defender for some time. Why can't Devers be the same type of team guy? That would be the argument. But I can see Devers' perspective too, and I do see both sides of this, and that's why it's so interesting to me. Devers is just 28. It's not like Altuve, who's getting toward the end of his career. Devers is 28 in the second year of a 10-year, $313.5 million contract. It's not easy to DH, and the Red Sox argument, Alanna, that this was Chaim Bloom who made this decision, not the current leadership group, I don't buy that. It was not just Chaim Bloom who said to Rafael Devers, listen, you're going to play third base for a long time. They all kind of indicated that to him. So while Alex Cora said that, and while that's certainly an argument the Red Sox can use, I don't really buy it that much. And the other thing that troubles me about this from the Red Sox perspective toward Devers is that they didn't really give him a heads up. It seems like he found out after Bregman signed that this was the way it's going to be. They asked him about it in a meeting or talked to him about it. So I do see where Devers is coming from. That said, the bottom line is, as I said earlier, you've got to put the best team on the field. And for that reason, I would expect at least Bregman to play some third base this year. I don't know how they would work it out exactly. I don't know that it's even that viable or smart to play a guy there part-time and split positions between third and second for Bregman. Again, the best Red Sox alignment is Bregman at third, Devers at DH. But Devers is a guy who does work at it, and he's a guy who doesn't want to move off the position. So it's really sticky in Boston right now, actually in Fort Myers.
Ken, does the fact that Devers is coming off of that shoulder surgery and he's obviously behind the 8 ball a little bit as he recovers from that, does that factor into this decision at all?
It should. It's another reason why you wouldn't want to play him necessarily at third base to start the season. And the difficult part here also is that Bregman has an opt-out after this year. So if Bregman opts out after one season, which if he has a great year, he will, even with a $40 million salary coming over the next 2 years, he probably would. Then the Red Sox are telling Rafi Devers, can you go back to third? How's that working out? Can we do this now? So it's a complex situation, but the point I wanted to make on the show today was I do see Devers' side of it. And it's not simply that a player is selfish and he won't do what's best for the team. These players all players have a lot of pride. That's why they get to where they are. So again, Devers, you can understand his point of view, but in the greater picture, when it comes down to what is best for the team, what is best for the team is not Rafael Devers at third base.
When you're talking about what's best for the team, I would think that continuing to talk about an extension with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is not what's best for the team. I really thought that this would have been done a couple of years ago, Ken, in terms of making Vlad a Toronto Blue Jay for life. Now, he gave the team until the 18th to offer him an extension that both sides agreed on. He said he would not talk contract extension within the season. What are you learning about this side of things from Toronto's perspective? Because they did say that they gave him a fair offer in terms of value, but it seems like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. seems to think that he's a little bit more valuable to the team than the Jays think that he is. What can you tell us?
Alanna, we don't know the numbers here, and I do expect and assume that the Jays made a very sizable offer, and they said it was a record for their club. Well, the record's only $150 million, so it was probably, I don't know, 400, 500, that range, with deferrals, perhaps. I don't know exactly. And we know also Vladimir Guerrero was not satisfied with whatever they offered. And you're right. As I wrote the other night, the Jays had every ability, every chance to do this earlier, and they should have done it earlier when they could have gotten him for a lot less. And the Jays talk a lot about discipline, staying disciplined, and about their process. And they say that in this particular case, they did get somewhat emotional and raise their offer beyond their comfort level. But obviously, the offer was not good enough. And when you talk about discipline and process, that's well and good. But at some point, you've got to win these negotiations. And what I mean by win is get the player. So if you're the Jays and you didn't value him enough to give him an early extension at maybe Fernando Tatis Jr.'s level when Tatis signed that contract in 21, then Vladdy had the monster year. Could have done it right then. Vladdy would have taken, I'm sure, something along the lines of Tatis after 21. You didn't do it then. You didn't value him in 24 because you took him to arbitration over a split of less than $2 million. Not an insignificant sum, but you fought him in a hearing and he beat you. So if you have concerns about him in some way, and they have not said that. They keep saying we love Vlad and we want him here a long time, but you haven't loved him enough to take care of this early. If you had those concerns, and if you saw where the market was going, and you should have seen it was going pretty high, even before Soto, then why didn't you trade him? If you didn't want to pay him, why didn't you trade him? And again, every step of the way, I'm just not following where Toronto has gone here. And the debate over Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s worth, is he worth $500 million plus? That is a fair debate. We can certainly argue the merits both ways there. And maybe it leans more toward, no, it's not good money or the right kind of deal for a first baseman. But again, if you're the Jays, you didn't have vision here. And especially after Soto signed, that was early December. You could have pivoted right there and traded Vladdy because you knew he was going to ask for something bigger. Even if it's not close to Soto, it was going to be some monster number. And yet they didn't do that. They have insisted on competing as hard as they can this year, which of course we all applaud. But the problem is, what happens after this year? Vladdy might be gone. Bo Bichette almost certainly will be gone. Where are you? And that is the issue I have with Toronto here.
Yeah, especially in that division, Ken. And it's not like they didn't have about 500 million plus earmarked for both Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani, missing out on both of those guys. So it's not as if Toronto doesn't have the money. I'm not saying Vladimir Guerrero Jr. rather is worth 500 plus million. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. He's worth what the market will give him. But it's not like they don't have the money. Why are they so hesitant to spend it on their what could have been their franchise player?
That's a good question, Alanna. And with Soto, they offered less than $700 million, according to Sportsnet. And Soto is a player who got that deal largely because he is a hitter. He's not a great defender. He's not a great base runner. He might be a DH within 4 or 5 years. Guerrero is the same type. Now, first base is a less valuable position on the defensive spectrum than right or left field, but not that much less valuable. And yes, Guerrero is a below average defender. He rates that way. We all get it. But if you think he's going to be an elite hitter, not Juan Soto. He hasn't been as consistent as Juan Soto. He hasn't been as good as Juan Soto. But If you expect he can be a top 10 OPS guy as he was last season, well, then you have to understand that he's going to ask for a lot of money given what Soto got. That's the way this works. And you can point to Soto as an outlier if you're the Jays, but you offered less than 700 million or just under 700 million, whatever it was for him. So he's an outlier, yes, but you were willing to go there. Well, then why not do it for your own guy at a lesser level?
Yeah, and they talk a lot about the way that players talk in this game. And they say it oftentimes big time talent doesn't want to go to Toronto because of the way that they treat top talent. I mean, this is kind of playing out in front of our very eyes in terms of if Vlad's the guy, you better pay him. And they haven't done that. And who knows what that team is going to look like next season. All right, much more to come as far as the lead is concerned. But right now, let's hear from our friends over at Foul Territory, a word on Arena Club. We'll be right back.
Oh, Todd Father. Remember the good old days when we would have the cards in the binders, but then they'd get all messed up and we're trying to sell online and it's just real clunky? They really actually weren't the good old days, were they?
No, they were definitely not. But now there's a better way. The Arena Club has been dominant with this. You get to trade your cards, you could sell them. But the best part for me is getting them graded. I love everything about that. This new age of getting cards graded. You could display them on your online showroom, your mobile device. It's the coolest thing in the world.
Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the all-in-one trading card platform. You have to sign up for an account at arenaclub.com/foul. Just like Todd Father mentioned, there's a process that combines AI and human grading to get the job done. Right now, 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul. Use code FOUL. That's arenaclub.com/foul. Code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase.
All right. Appreciate Arena Club being a part of the show here on Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. By the way, you can be a part of the show as well. Get your questions in. We're going to be doing Grillin Ken here momentarily. But before we get to Grillin Ken, let's finish off the lead with the ABS, automatic ball and strike system, coming to a baseball field near you. It's here before we know it.
19 of the 30 spring training teams have the ability to have ABS in their parks. We're going to see it this spring. It's experimental. And I am really interested to see and curious to see how this plays out. The idea is each team will have 2 challenges per game. You can challenge a specific ball or strike call. It has to come from a player on the field, pitcher, catcher, hitter, and it has to come almost instantaneously. You get the correct call overturned, then you retain the challenge. If you do not, if you miss, then you lose the challenge. Kind of like replay, the way it works. Now, what I am interested to see is not so much how this plays out, though that's part of the intrigue here. Just how hitters will react to it and pitchers will see whether they're comfortable with it or not and whether it's doing what it's supposed to do, get the ball strike calls right. What I'm interested to see are any unintended consequences that might come out of this. Because if you remember, Alanna, when replay was introduced, the idea was to get the egregious calls right. Just get the really bad calls correct. And what happened over time is that it became much more than that. And you see the play at second base where the base runner's foot comes slightly off the bag and then boom, they slap a tag on him. You replay it and he's out. That was not the original intent of replay. And with ABS, the automatic ball strike system, there are going to be some things that happen that maybe the league does not anticipate, that no one anticipates. And it'll be interesting to see how everyone reacts to those things that might happen. Now, Scott Braun asked a question on Twitter the other day, or X, I should say, about, hey, if this thing works out well, can the league implement it immediately? That's not how it works. There's a joint competition committee that exists now, and they have to go through the process. There are clubs on that committee. There are players and umpires. The clubs, the league, have the majority of the votes. They can do whatever they want, essentially. But you have to give 45 days notice to implement a rules change. It used to be a year, but now under the current CBA, it's 45 days, and you're not going to implement this thing in the middle of the season. But if it does go well, the goal of testing it now would be to get feedback, make some tweaks, create buy-in. And again, I'm just really interested to see how it works, how catchers adapt, how hitters react, how everything just plays out.
Yeah, the game is changing in a lot of different ways. And remember when everybody was up in arms about the bigger bases and not being able to throw over to the first as many times, the pitch clock, all of those different things. And we've moved on. The world did not end, and they're going to, implement this, test it out, get some feedback, and who knows, maybe we'll have it league wide for the 2026 season. Okay, time now for Grillin Ken. Get those questions in. All right, Ken, as I mentioned, today is the first game in terms of spring training games. The Cubs, the Dodgers, a few other clubs are playing as well. The Cubs and the Dodgers, a preview for their Tokyo series that is happening in less than a month before it actually counts. So my question to you as we get this thing kicked off here, what are some of your favorite spring training cliches? A really funny article in The Athletic, of course, in the best shape of our lives, ranking the best MLB spring training cliches. What's your favorite?
Well, that one is really the topper for me because it's a joke every year. I'm in the best shape of my life. Yeah, we hear it all the time. I'm going to go off the board a little bit. This isn't a spring training cliche, but it's something you hear virtually every day of the season. When a player is complimenting another player or a manager is complimenting a player, hey man, he's fun to watch right now. Yeah, we get it. He's fun to watch. It's fun to watch baseball, period. And some guys are more fun to watch than others.
Yeah, a couple of mine for me. I love it's the lid lifter, like the lid lifter to spring training. The first game of the season, the lid lifter. Double dip, of course, with 2 games doubleheader, and probably my other favorite that I like a lot when it comes to spring training is every time you see somebody for the first time in a new season, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, and you say that like every time you see. So I don't know how long you can go into spring training, kind of like Larry David, like by January 4th, you can no longer say Happy New Year. I don't know how long you go in spring training, but those are some of my favorites. All right, now let's get serious here. You only get to ask Ken Rosenthal a question a couple of times a week. So this one has to do with Marcus Stroman. Jay Farrell, 305. 305 to me means that he lives in Miami. We'll see. Stroman posted as Yankee starter on Friday. Is this a message or is it a PR move?
I don't know. Maybe the questioner is John Farrell of the former Red Sox ilk. No, I doubt it. Stroman, I don't know if it's a PR message or some kind of move along those lines. In fact, I doubt it. What teams generally do is line up their starting pitchers in a particular way so that for opening day, everything's fine. They want Cole, however it's going to work out, every 5th day until opening day or every 6th, however they're going to do it. That, to me, drives this thing more than anything else. So I don't know that Stroman pitching the first game for the Yankees means anything in particular. Maybe they want to get him out there as often as possible to showcase him, to show other teams, hey, this guy is ready. That would be, if anything, the motivation beyond simply the schedule.
All right. So probably not looking too deep into that, just kind of the way that the schedule works out, how they're going to line him up, making sure that, say, hey, he's still good. Maybe he can still be a trade piece. We'll see. All right. Will D wants to know which of the 5 Mariners starters makes the biggest jump in 2025. One thing that the Mariners had last year, Ken, was a very good starting rotation. Who makes the biggest improvement?
It's interesting because they're all really good. But the guy I would look to make the biggest improvement would be Bryan Woo. And Bryan Woo has incredible ability. There were a couple of times last year where he got physically off kilter a little bit and they had to back off him. But if he can stay healthy, he, because of his talent level, certainly is the kind of guy that can make a jump, maybe beyond even what we're expecting. I don't expect Luis Castillo to improve that much. Logan Gilbert, no, not even the same kind of thing. George Kirby, Miller, they're all who they are. But Woo, to me, is the guy who maybe can make the biggest leap forward.
Do the Mariners have the best starting rotation in the AL West or in the American League? Is that fair?
You can make the argument that it's the best in baseball, even including the Dodgers. It's that good. But the question with the Mariners is, are they going to hit enough? And remember, their only offensive additions really are Jorge Polanco and Donovan Solano. These are accomplished veterans, quality guys to have on a team, not Pete Alonso and Alex Bregman.
Yeah, no question about that. All right, next question for you here, Ken, on Grillin Ken. That's regarding a veteran free agent pitcher still available. I mean, there's a lot. Wesley wants to know multiple mid-tier veteran pitchers are still in the market. I'm sure teams will be adding once injuries happen, but a lot could use one now. Good point by Wesley. Did you learn nothing from pitchers like Monty last year? I'm assuming he's meaning Jordan Montgomery, of course.
That's a fair question, but I would ask that question in this particular case of the clubs and not the players. Now, with Montgomery last year and with Blake Snell, there was certainly a debate over why that delay occurred, those delays. And the agent, Scott Boras, clearly had something to do with it. Now, Scott would say that it was the market. The teams weren't ready to spend at the level that they needed to spend to get these players. I get it. But at the same time, the teams were not liking the prices that were being asked. Now, with guys like Jose Quintana and Andrew Heaney and all of these starting pitchers who are still out there, Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn, these guys are not looking to break the bank. So it's a question of teams being in a position where they can squeeze free agents and where they can continue to bleed these guys and try to get the lowest prices possible. And how much it will affect them, it depends when they sign. If a guy signs in late March, it could affect him more. Now, we've seen pitchers over the years succeed in those situations. I remember Kyle Loesch one year signed in late March and pitched really well. But it's not the way you want to go about it, for sure. And once the injuries start, and they already have started to some degree, you're going to see these guys, I would expect, in camp. But if you're a Lance Lynn or Kyle Gibson too, you're not playing for $2 million or $1 million. You're a major league veteran. You're accomplished, and you don't want what these teams are selling you right now.
Yeah, at that point, you just take it to the house. I mean, you've achieved pretty much everything you want to do in your career. You're not going to take a value to undervalue yourself, especially when you're a veteran and you have families at home and you're taking that much time away from your kiddos. All right, Sicilian wants to know if the Jays are doing poorly by the trade deadline, Vlad will likely get traded. Do you think Vlad could be traded at the deadline? I mean, enough with the trading of this guy. Like, something needs to happen with him. Sign him to an extension or trade him now.
First, going back to the last question, I don't want to dismiss $1 million or $2 million. We all know that's a lot of money, but in a relative sense for baseball players, it's not a lot of money. Okay, now, Vlad, if they are out of contention at the deadline, will they finally see the light? I thought they should have traded Vlad a year ago. I don't know. They've put so much into this season, and it's sort of difficult if you're any good at all to be out of contention by the deadline. The Jays likely will be, even in a bad season, somehow in the wild card mix. How far are they going to be out? Remember, there are 6 playoff teams in each league now. It's a little easier to make the playoffs, and as much as they've invested in this season, they're not going to give up on it easily. So right now, if I had to guess, I would say that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is walking as a free agent, walking away from the Blue Jays, and they're getting nothing but draft pick compensation in return.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Again, it's the saga with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. continues as far as Toronto is concerned. Last question here for you, Ken, on Grillin Ken comes from Michael Weiss. Which division is going to be the most competitive in baseball in 2025? I like this question because I think parity is good for the game. We need more competitive divisions.
Actually, I think there are several divisions that could really be competitive, and one of them is the AL East. We were just talking about it. Toronto is, I think, improved over where they were last year. They've done some good things. Tampa Bay is always competitive. The Red Sox clearly are improved. The Orioles are good, and the Yankees are the defending league champions. The AL Central is going to be a very competitive division. We saw 3 playoff teams come out of that division last year: Detroit, Kansas City, Cleveland. And now the AL West, because Houston seemingly has taken a step back. Certainly they're a different team without Presley and Tucker and Bregman. Well, you've got projection systems kind of showing them even with Texas and Seattle. All 3 teams kind of in the same range. NL East is going to be competitive. The NL Central, I don't know how competitive it's going to be. The Cubs conceivably could run away with it. And then the Dodgers in the NL West, you would expect they'd win the division. But the Diamondbacks are going to be good with Corbin Burns. The Giants think they've improved. And the Padres are going to be very good again. So I expect that there's going to be a lot of competition throughout the season and throughout the league. If I had to guess, I'd say the AL East will be the most competitive.
Well, I definitely hope we have a lot of competition because it's much better for the game when all 30 teams legitimately have a chance to win. That's not necessarily the case in 2025, but there are a handful of teams that certainly do. Okay, time now for Dude of the Week.
Dude. Dude. Dude.
And Ken, you had like a late inning scratch in terms of who your dude of the week was. It went from, I believe, Justin Turner. I can't remember who your original dude of the week was, but it's changed. Who is it?
Justin Turner was going to be my dude of the week just because this is his 17th year. He's had an amazing career for a guy who was at one point non-tendered. But my dude of the week is someone who in New York Mets camp made waves this morning because of a gift he purchased for a player who gave up his number. I'm talking about Juan Soto, who received number 22 from Brett Beatty. And what did Brett Beatty get? An SUV. Now, that's not your normal bottle of wine for changing numbers. That's pretty good stuff right there. So Juan Soto is my dude of the week. Now, a former player pointed out, well, let's see what kind of SUV it is. No. We're in the real world here. Somebody gives you an SUV, no matter what model it is, it's a nice SUV. So Juan Soto, dude of the week for his generosity.
I love that. I love that there was a bow on the SUV, but what I loved about the thing more is that Juan Soto's in full uniform. Why is he in full uniform in the parking lot giving Brett Beatty an SUV? Good for you, Juan Soto. That's the nice thing to do. And listen, I'll give you my number if you want to give me a car any day of the week. All right.
And we know he got $765 million. I get it, but that's still
I know, but he didn't have to give him a car. I mean, that's very generous of him. Okay, so I'm kind of on the same lines as you are with your Justin Turner pick. My dude of the week is Andrew McCutchen for the same exact reason. This is the guy that's entering his 17th season. Andrew McCutchen is just a good dude. He's a guy that you want on your team. He's never about drama. He's never had a problem off the field. He's a good human being. He's good in the community. He's a great teammate. Guys keep wanting him back. Obviously, he's a Pittsburgh Pirate for life. When you think of Andrew McCutchen, you think of the Pittsburgh Pirates. He follows one person on Instagram, his wife. This guy is about no nonsense, no drama. Congratulations, Andrew McCutchen, your 17th season in the bigs. Not many people are ever fully vested at 10 years. And look at what Andrew McCutchen has been able to accomplish. He is my dude of the week. All right, time now for the John Fisher Dork of the Week. All right, this is the other end of the spectrum, Ken. Somebody that leaves us shaking our heads. Who is your dork of the week?
Texas A&M baseball. Now, they instituted a policy that they have since rescinded, that players would not be available to the media after losses. Now, I am generally lenient on amateur players and how they should be covered differently than professional players. However, college right now, you have NILs. The guys are closer to pros and actually are pros than they ever were before. So, no, let's not shield the children here. It's not necessary. And you know what also? I don't know how good Texas A&M is and how many first round, second round, third round picks they might have, but guess what? Part of becoming a major league player or even a minor league player is learning how to deal with the media after losses. Oh my gosh. Sometimes you even have to talk to writers then. So thankfully, Texas A&M rescinded this policy because that was a really, really bad idea.
No question about it. How about some accountability? And one thing I love about players in this game are if you're 0 for 5 or 5 for 5, you're still posting at your locker and answering questions. I mean, the media has a job to do as well. And yeah, accountability is huge. I feel like that's a very generational thing that perhaps those a little bit younger than you and I, Ken Rosenthal, don't necessarily want to be held accountable for things. Okay, mine is also dealing with the media, but perhaps sometimes less is more. And my dork of the week, and I like him, I have a lot of respect for him, but my dork of the week is Tristan Cassis, where he was asked the question in fairness, but sometimes I think the appropriate answer would have been, that's above my pay grade. I think the team is going to put people in the best position for the team to win. The sum is bigger than the parts type of situation. And he said that he thought that Bregman should not play third and that Devers should play third. And I don't know that that is something that he perhaps should have said, just based on the amount of time he's had in the big leagues, especially when then later on in the week, Alex Bregman was then asked, a veteran player, a World Series championship player, that said, I'll play wherever the team wants me to play. So again, Triston Casas is a unique personality. I love that sometimes he does speak his mind, but I think in that situation, I mean, you're not a guy that makes those decisions. So take that off of your plate and say, hey, those around me that are in a better position to make those decisions will, because now we're talking about it. Here I am calling him a dork of the week, and sometimes less is more.
Agreed. And in this game, perhaps more than other games, other professional sports, you kind of have to know your place. And there's good in that and there's bad in that. And we've seen over the years that the young players needed to be given some more freedom. I love guys who speak their mind. We love that as writers, media, but at the same time, Triston Casas is just going to get himself in trouble if he keeps saying stuff like this.
Yeah, that's just it. Again, I didn't want the heat on him. I like Triston. He's a good young man and he's a good player. But yeah, I don't want him to have to deal with all this stuff. And sometimes, like I said, I think less is more. By the way, before we close the show and get to our good friends at BetMGM, Mike Loverdi wants to know, hey, Alanna, have you ever heard of Photo Day? Yes, Mike, I have heard of Photo Day, but the players don't necessarily have to go into the parking lot in full uniform. Okay, so there's that. I've been to many photo days, Mike. All right, that is neither here nor there. All right, time now for our friends at BetMGM. From February 16th until March 2nd, players can join in on the BetMGM Poker Winter Online Championships. Players can compete for a prize pool of over $1.5 million guaranteed in 21 trophy events. Play your cards right in the Winter Online Championships, and you could also claim a share of an additional 10 grand on the Winter Online Championships leaderboard. Gambling problem or concern? There is help. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Ken, thanks for everybody for watching. We appreciate you guys very much. Foul Territory is next. And just a reminder, Ken is back on Monday at 10:30 Eastern for spring training as Fair Territory leads right into Foul Territory. Have a great day, guys.